What it is, what it ain't, what it's gonna be is your homeboy Blues. And thank you so much for tuning in, y'all, to Act Now. Shouts out to Marcus Kaiser for that amazing graphic, y'all. This program was a call to all the artists in our region, our state, the world, in response to what's been going on with all the social injustice and the racism and just everything that's been going on. And the response, y'all, the response has been amazing. In fact, what I want to do, man, just starting off, my man Jason Jett and the Creative Gent came together to present something so dope. I want y'all to check this out. When we come back, we'll talk about Act Now.
Numb to the world and all its affairs, searching for truth, searching for truth, searching for truth when no one seems to care. Working overdrive just to make ends meet, and I don't sleep well, no. People drain me every day of the week, but I don't need help. I'm done with chasing after fantasies, I don't care if you mean well, no. Farewell, black man. We're living in a world where we can't pretend we're innocent, no. It's the media's agenda to portray us as feminine. Where did all our power go? Was it when they took our souls? Or when they handed us the Bible? They got me numb. Somebody call me an ambulance. They think I'm dumb. I'm way smarter than your average, and I won't run. Laying here dreaming about my exodus. Opening my mind to the elements. I feel the ocean breeze, it's so eloquent, yeah. Where do we go when things hit the fan? When the ceiling's low, we all gotta take a stand. Yeah. Our mothers count on us, and the kids do too. Yeah, we're still alive with so much love to you. Yeah. Black man, we're living in a world where we can't pretend we're innocent. No. It's the media's agenda to portray us as feminine. Where did all our power go? Was it when they took our souls? Or when they handed us the Bible? They got me numb. Somebody call me an ambulance. I'm way smarter than your average, and I won't run. Laying here dreaming about my exodus. Opening my mind to the elements. I feel the ocean breeze, it's so eloquent. Somebody call me an ambulance. They think I'm dumb. I'm way smarter than your average, and I won't run. Laying here dreaming about my exodus. Opening my mind to the elements. It's so eloquent, yeah.
There's a Nipsey in every city. There's a Malcolm on every block. There's a Martin in your church, in your community. But we gotta stand up. We gotta hold each other accountable. You can do anything. You're powerful. Beyond measure. You're black.
Yo, Jason Jett, right? Incredible. The song is called Numb, and it goes out to black men, encouraging them to stay lifted, encouraging them to challenge their circumstances and to work interdependently. Man, listen, it is a song that we need right now. And Jason Jett has this way of making music for the right time, for the right moment. His voice is powering a generation. So, man, I am such a fan of his, and I appreciate the work that went into this message particularly. And shout out to the Creative Gent. So their images matched up and worked in sync. And the Creative Gent, listen, the way he works with perspective and perception to focus in on what the black man is going through and present that, he describes it as giving the images voice and sound, like what an image sounds and looks like at this. It's an incredible way to think of photography, to think of the way you capture images, and the Creative Gent does that. Creative Gent, creative is the main word there. So shouts out to him. Y'all, this is Act Now, and you are in Act 1. This is a 3-part series brought to you by Boom Charlotte, Black Market Charlotte, The Roll Up, and Charlotte is Creative. This was all done for artists who wanted to respond to what's going on, not just in Charlotte, but the entire country, with the killing of George Floyd, the killing of Breonna Taylor, the killing of Tamir Rice, the killing of Philando Castile, and the list goes on, tragically. But we're here to celebrate what the arts does in response. This is how we protest, right? This is what we do. This is how we get our words and our images and our voice and our dance across. So this is what we're doing. We're going to take a little time to say thank you to our funders. And I'm going to say Knight Foundation, the Re-Emprise Fund, Foundation of the Carolinas, the Arts and Science Council, United Way, and the North Carolina Arts Council. So we thank y'all for helping us get this together. The funding is so important on top of everything. So with that being said, I want to introduce you to your next 3 artists that you're going to see. You are going to see Karma Moran, who is going to do a piece called Departure. Then you're going to see Amina Hextel's Goldieverse, which she presents as The Protest. And then you're going to hear from my man John Wrights, who's going to give you 2 essays about how racism directly affected his parents. So with that being said, sit back, relax, go tell a friend what you're doing, invite them into this situation, that, you know, do your watch party, do whatever. Do that now, because here we go.
I pick up my life and take it with me to Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, Scranton. I pick up my life and take it on the train to Los Angeles, Bakersfield, Seattle, Oakland, Salt Lake, any place that is north and west and not south. Langston Hughes, one-way ticket. It is a strange Tuesday. The air feels thicker than other Tuesdays. Ida May has her head tilted against a train window, crammed in the color-only section. The atmosphere, stuffy, filled with unspoken words. It feels too early to conjure direful memories. She hears somebody calls her name. Maybe the trees grew tired of whooshing and have decided to speak. This Tuesday, Ida May feels like an uprooted tree. A few hours earlier, standing at the threshold, with all her life packed in one bag, the house breathes as if it was haunted, not by ghosts, but by her own stories. The trees in the front yard join her thoughts, whispering dates of funerals. They almost sing, shriek, howl even, trying to bring some wisdom to this doomed world. She will not stay though. She would not die here, much less for these trees. The fruit of their branches used to quench her thirst and soothe her hunger, until the fruit was replaced by bodies suspended like horrid Christmas decorations from Hades. Pear tree, cousin tree, apple tree, boy tree, orange tree, mutilated brother tree. No, the trees were good to her, but they don't know loyalty. They give the same treatment to the oppressor and the oppressed. Ida May leans on their throne one last time, and a part of her soul speaks back, inoculating her against regret. Leave. They bless her as a leaf brushes her neck. And as the trees surrender their leaves and one starts to see their skeletons, Ida May feels naked, ashamed of this unjust country that forced her ancestors to leave everything and resign their royalty, her royalty. She is a rose torn upside down to preserve her beauty, though she doesn't know it yet. Fall. What a curious word for a season. Ida May closes her eyes, and in her heart, she jumps from the top of the highest mountain to fall into a pile of foliage and disappears. Departure.
Searchlights we can see in the dark. We are rockets pointed up at the stars. We are billions of beautiful hearts. And you sold us down the river too far. What about us? What about all the times you said you had the answers? What about us? What about all the broken happy ever afters? What about us? What about all the plans that ended in disaster? What about love? What about trust? What about us? We are proud.
Understanding my father's racial past, they called him nigger and killed his neighbor. In the early 70s, Dad lived next door to a black woman who went missing in Lake City, South Carolina. He doesn't remember much about her, only her penchant for drinking and the white man she was sleeping with. Sometime after her disappearance, her body was found in the woods, several miles outside of town. She'd been murdered by notorious serial killer Pee Wee Gaskins, who terrorized South Carolina for more than a decade before he was apprehended in 1975. The state executed him in 1991. Townsfolk suspected Gaskins killed her because of her sexual liaisons with white men. Although interracial marriage had been legalized in the 60s, mixed relationships remained taboo and drew ire and suspicion from blacks and whites alike. But when it comes to Gaskins, who knows really? He was a violent sexual sadist who admitted to killing 8 people, raping several men, women, and children, and stabbing, strangling, castrating, mutilating, and cannibalizing up to 100 others, including a pregnant woman and his own niece. He was evil and indiscriminate. He was also a fixture in Lake City. Dad remembers seeing Gaskins ride around town in an ambulance truck with the back cut off. Quote, Pee Wee was a small little thing, he said. Racism could have been Gaskins' motive to kill, or it could have been sex, or money, or other people breathing. It hardly matters. Authorities found Dad's dead neighbor near the Lake City Municipal Airport. That was just minutes from the stretch of highway where Dad laid eyes on a gaggle of Klansmen burning a cross. He was in the car with his grandfather as they traveled on US 378, a popular route to Myrtle Beach. They saw the smoke ahead, then the flames, then the cross, then the hoods. It was just one of several Klan sightings and rallies Dad would witness in his lifetime. This was his childhood in this racially divisive southern city, where he and his 2 sisters attended segregated schools, used colored bathrooms and water fountains, and entered restaurants through the back door. Lake City is a tiny town south of Florence, the major commercial center in South Carolina's Petey region. Named for its swimming lakes just north of town, this small city was once celebrated as the bean capital of the world. It's also notable as the hometown of Ronald McNair, the black astronaut who died on the Challenger space shuttle when it exploded on takeoff in 1986. Its claim to fame aside, Lake City has a dark past rooted in racial turmoil, unrest, and disparity. I have lots of family there, primarily because it's just a stone's throw from the counties where our ancestors were enslaved. My great-grandfather was a sharecropper. That means he rented land from a white family and farmed it in exchange for giving them a share of the crops. My dad and his sisters, in turn, worked for their grandfather, picking tobacco before and after school. It was grueling work. As time went on and Dad became a teenager, he found other jobs. One of the best was at Lamb's Produce, a family-owned business that eventually moved from Lake City to Florence. It's still in operation today. It was a good job, and Mr. Lamb, the owner, treated my father fairly well. Dad drove Mr. Lamb's cars. Dad ate at Mr. Lamb's table. Dad managed Mr. Lamb's cash register. That's significant. My father believes he was one of the first black people in Lake City to ever run a cash register. No one openly bashed Dad about his closeness with Mr. Lamb, but he did get wind of what they said behind his back. Mr. Lamb's father, for instance, was none too happy about that, quote, nigger managing the money. But Mr. Lamb was a different type of white Southerner. Quote, he didn't allow nobody to disrespect me, Dad said. If he knew about it, he would address it. Not everyone was Mr. Lamb. Whites and blacks, for the most part, kept their distance on opposite ends of town. When white people did come around, it was usually to collect money from my great-grandfather or grandparents. Unlike today, the N-word didn't make socially conscious white people shudder. How could it? They were the ones hurling it. Sometimes Dad talks about white people in Lake City with scorn in his throat. It's probably because he was treated like a second-class citizen. There was reprieve. Dad and his buddies would sometimes go to Atlantic Beach on the weekend. Of course, they couldn't go to Myrtle Beach. That was for white people. There was a laundry list of things they couldn't do. If you bought something from a white-owned store, you didn't dare return it. If you ordered food at a restaurant but your order was wrong, you didn't dare speak up. You stayed quiet and you stayed unassuming. That way, you'd stay out of jail. You'd stay alive. Dad's mother died of cancer when he was still in high school. Losing her shook him. He had my brother in 1979, but left Lake City in the early 80s. He moved to New York City and met my mom a few years later. In 1988, they married, and 2 years later, they had me. As a kid, it bothered me when Dad would tell me that I had to be careful around white people, that they'd smile in my face but call me the N-word behind my back. This was the 90s, and bewitched by childlike naivete, I adamantly believed we had reached an era of racial progress and equity. After all, I had white friends, and we lived in a melting pot in Brooklyn. Our neighbors were Puerto Rican, Arabs, black and white. My schoolmates were Yugoslavian, Trinidadian, Haitian, and Panamanian. I figured everywhere was like this. So I told Dad he was wrong. I told him things weren't the same as when he was a kid, that racism didn't look or feel or behave the same way. It was basically over. He would just smile and nod. He knew what I know now. America would soon prove him right, and then I'd get it. Racism never went anywhere. That started to become clear in 1999, the same year 4 cops fired 41 bullets into Amadou Diallo. At the time, we still lived in New York, and the police's stop and frisk program, which overwhelmingly targeted black and brown men, was in full force. I didn't witness this, but frazzled and angry, almost in shock, Dad relayed the story moments after it happened. Walking home, clutching a bottle of grapefruit juice, 2 white cops stopped him on the street. They assumed he had an open container of alcohol, and so without so much as a, "Can I talk to you, sir?" they threw him against an accordion security gate and detained him long enough to realize he was telling the truth. That's when I realized he was telling the truth too. Things are different for men with black skin. I was 9 when I learned cops could be crooks. To my dad, I appreciate how frankly you talk about your upbringing. You don't mince words, and I'm thankful. The details you've shared have kept me aware and woke long before woke was a thing. I love and admire you. I also love that we're on the same page as we watch white people wake up to the reality of systemic racism that was still prevalent when you were my age 30 years ago. We'll see if this movement will take, or if it's a reactionary trend that will dissolve with time. We'll see if America proves you right again. Thank you.
Y'all, listen, when I tell you we gonna keep giving you this work, keep giving you this art, keep giving you these responses and from these artists, listen, I can't even put the words together, and that's my job. I'm so amazed at this. So what you just saw was Kerma Marin, The Departure, which she wrote for The Warmth of Other Suns for the Mint Museum, and she was accompanied by Victoria Yepes, I hope I'm saying that right, on the cello. So amazing work in a blend of these 2 artists. And then you had Amina Hextels from the Goldieverse, and she did The Protest, and she choreographed and danced the entire thing, and it was her spirit releasing the acceptance and fear and oppression all through dance. So I hope you really enjoyed that. And then we have my man John Wright, aka Jonathan McFadden, giving you 2 essays that showed us the story of how racism directly affected his parents. And I can only imagine what my own parents went through, right? And he had the wherewithal and talent to write that story and give us that story, because that's what we need, right? The stories from the past and the stories from right now, which is why we're doing this. Act Now, Act 1. So I hope that you are all enjoying this. Listen, it's not done though. Like, we've got 3 more. We have Andrea Downs, who's going to air out the dirty laundry. Then we have Voice TV, going to give you an amazing film. And then we have Philip Cherry, who's going to give you a little bit about his work and how his art has helped him through the pains of this country. I won't say anymore. I'll let you watch this. Wait, did you invite people like I told you? Invited them to this? You did? Good. Sit back, relax. Let's go.
Hey y'all, my name is Andrea Downs. I'm a visual artist, activist, and the creator of Airing Out the Dirty Laundry, an ongoing community art movement that responds to the silencing of women, creating opportunities for all women to share stories and experiences of strength, hope, unity, and resistance of oppression, injustice, and exclusion through visual storytelling. This movement began as a response to our most recent presidential election in 2016, also as a response to the women's marches that happened globally in early 2017, and as a joining together of the Me Too and Say Her Name and other women's movements that have been around for a long time. In a little over 2 years, more than 400 women from across the country and internationally have created pieces and shared their stories. And their stories have been joined together on laundry clotheslines in more than 35 pop-up and longer installations in Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbus, Ohio, and Traverse City, Michigan. And today I am meeting with you live from the Mint Museum Uptown, where currently the full collection of women's stories are joined together on laundry clotheslines for the first time. And we are eagerly awaiting a museum reopening so that you can come and engage in women's stories. Today I'm also going to share a piece that I created recently, which I'm going to do in just a second. And this is also a call to action to invite you to participate in this ongoing community art movement. My piece that is next to me here that I'm going to talk about a little bit was created in direct response to the murder and police violence against Breonna Taylor. And so I'm going to share it with you, and then I'm going to talk to you about what this represents for me. The front layer here, that is, or the top layer, is a little bit probably hard to see on the screen. It is embroidered in white, and it says, white women's silence equals violence. And when you lift the top layer, it includes Say Her Name at the very top, and then you will see the names that are also included on the website for this movement, and which also includes the stories of how these Black women and trans women were murdered by police brutality. And this piece for me was very much serves as a reminder for me to not be complicit in watching these injustices happen, for me to continue to listen to other women's stories, for me to continue to stand next to and stand behind and stand with all women. And so again, this was just part of my story. Your story might look very different, or it might be very similar to mine. But this is my invitation and my call to action to invite you to speak up and speak out, for you to think about what is going on in our world and how you fit into that and how you might want to respond to it. And I would love for you to create a piece of visual storytelling to add to and to join with the more than 400 stories that are already a part of this collection. Whether you realize it or not, you are already a part of this narrative. It's just very possible that you haven't had the space or the opportunity for your story and your voice to be heard by other people. This space is for you. And there are plenty of spaces on the laundry clothesline for your story or your stories. So you can get involved by going to aotdl.org and find out more information about how you can participate individually or with a group or an organization, or how we can even partner together. But I can tell you that your story belongs here, and this space is for you. Thank you.
Please, I can't breathe. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. They're going to kill me.
I'm a black man, born and raised here in America. No matter what I do, the education I get, the amount of money I make, the things I do that are positive, no matter, even if I try to scrub this off, at the end of the day, I'm still a black man here in America. I'm also a former police officer. People have been telling me, you have a very unique perspective. You need to speak out. People need to hear your story. You should do this, you should do that.
If you don't do anything about it, you're just as guilty.
They standing right here. The good one's standing right here. We're trying to hold each other.
Yeah, but the good ones gotta keep the bad ones in line.
It wasn't until recently, after the passing of George Floyd, that made me realize that I should share my story. People can learn some things from it. I don't know. When I was going through the police academy, one of the training officers in the police academy posed a question. He asked, what is the biggest tool out there on the street? When you get out there on the street in your uniform, what is the biggest tool you have out there? Some people said, your gun. Other people said, your taser. Other people said, your radio. Call for backup. That's the biggest tool. You're like, all of you are wrong. The biggest tool you have out there is your mouth. Said your mouth can get you in a situation or get you out of a situation.
Do you see it done in this police department?
Not the people that I work with.
2016.
Because
It was.
I latered over here from another agency where I was a supervisor. I've been caught for 15 years. I used to be a supervisor. I'll be the first one to run up if somebody's doing something wrong. Because I don't want that giving me a bad name. I don't want this to happen. If somebody would have pulled the big red handle on that guy a long time ago, guess what? This wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't be here. Exactly. So he had four brothers. He had four cops right around him. They did nothing.
They were all on him. That's why.
And it hurt my feelings to watch that video.
Me too. Let me tell you this.
So I empathize with you. I completely do.
But let me tell you this. There is a code. Most cops do not put another cop. They don't stop another cop if they see doing something wrong, which makes you a bad cop.
Not here. Not with us. Definitely not with me. If I see somebody doing something wrong, I'm gonna go tell it. If I do something wrong, I want somebody to tell on me.
We gonna fight this one nation. We gonna all be against each other. That's all I got to say. God bless everybody that's out here tonight. Go home safely. No looting, no beef with the police. Nobody died tonight.
I'm not here to loot.
Please.
I'm here for the bad cops. I'm here for the good cops that sit there and let the bad cops do
and
stuff.
It makes it even harder on us that are doing the right things. You know, we've got the bad ones out.
So with everything that happened in regards to George Floyd, I felt it's time for me to use the biggest tool, my mouth.
Justice for Trayvon! Justice for everyone! Justice Taylor! Justice for Sandra Bullock! Justice for Philando Castile! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
You gangbangers, if you gangbangers and any of that shit, you need to come together. You need to come together for real. Learn to unite. We black revolutionary about Malcolm X.
So what does this have me with everything? Me being a former police officer, me being a black man here in America, where do I stand? So many people always asking me, what do I think? See, they taught us in training in police academy that the hands are what kill you. You always gotta watch out for the hands. So when you're out here on calls, when you're out here patrolling, when you're interacting with people, watch the hands. The hands are the thing that can grab a weapon. The hands are the thing that can take your weapon away and kill you. The hands are the thing that can beat you over the head, that can fight you. The hands are what kills you. But when I watched the video, or some portion of the video, I couldn't stand to watch the entire video. I couldn't watch it all.
Absolutely anything. They're standing there. We stood on ground. Exactly. And my man was on his knees with his hands up.
And the girls
What can he do?
I've seen enough death in life. I've seen enough videos of black men, unarmed men being killed. And this is coming from a former police officer. I've seen enough videos of that. I've seen enough videos, or I've seen enough death in person. I've seen enough people take their last breath in front of me. I've seen enough of that. But the portion of the video that I did see was that the fact that Mr. Floyd was handcuffed. So therefore, him being handcuffed, how can he kill you? How is he a threat any longer? How can he hurt you? He couldn't. You have other officers. He doesn't have a weapon on him. He can't breathe. He can't breathe.
Hey, what did they do? They killed me. That's right. Okay, let's go. Yes, let's go. And he put his knee in his further. He begged for his life. His name.
Y'all see it? Yeah, you can. Oh, okay then. Come on, let's get it. Put that thing up a little bit.
So how do I take that? That just make me think, and it reinforces that I'm still a black man here in America. I became a cop to be something that I never saw when I was growing up. I never had a relationship like that with a police officer growing up. But I thought maybe I could become something that I never really had.
Say his name. George Floyd. 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 Say his name. George Floyd.
I don't go around talking about me being a police officer. I just didn't want to talk about it. I didn't think it was necessary. Plenty of times people call me a sellout, Uncle Tom, or Oreo. Furthest thing from that, I just wanted to make a difference within my community. But at the end of the day, I would use my voice. I would use that powerful tool that the training officer told me that I had. I would use my voice. I would use this camera to spread awareness. I would do everything that I can do to make a change. Make a change.
I was asked what it meant to be a black artist, and it's rewarding, but it's very challenging. James Baldwin talked about the moral obligation of the artist, and a lot of my interpretation personally of that was challenging the norm, speaking on what's real, and questioning everything, which is important as both an artist, a person. It's important to question everything. But within doing that, it gets conflicting because a lot of black artists, while telling the perspective and telling the black story, get placed into a box or a category within it. And the inclusion in the fine arts world already is a difficult place for African American artists. We know Simone Lee showed at the Guggenheim. It took her into her 50s to get recognition for her work. Carrie James Marshall is an artist that throughout my entire time of learning fine arts in high institutions, I didn't learn about. I had to go out of my way to learn. The Guggenheim also just got its first Black curator in 2019. So we know these are issues. But within this box, you find a lot of Black artists being expected to only show you the Black perspective, or what it's like, or something urban, or anything of the sort that kind of places us in the category of reminding you we're Black within our work. Because when you're a Black artist, you're not just an artist anymore. When you are an Asian artist of any sort, you're not just an artist anymore. They always put that category in front of it and expect you to stick within that realm. And because of the troubles a lot of artists have with inclusion, the work outside of that realm most of the time does not get recognition. For me personally, I make my art about my experience because it's how I get a lot of that pain out of my system. I watch the news and I read these articles and I really dig into information and I read books just to learn these things. But within learning a lot of things, it's really troubling emotionally and psychologically as a Black man in America to even gain the knowledge that you weren't given as a child or given in your education or given in school. It's challenging. And so sometimes I like to express that within my work. I express that within maybe some subliminal messages within my work, or maybe something a little bit more blatant and in your face. But it's there. But with that being said, and this is my personal experience, a lot of my work outside of that realm, you've never seen. Not because I don't put it out there, not because it's different than the work that is getting picked up, but because it's not the Black experience. And because it's just, it's regular abstract work that a lot of people want to see from other artists. So it's really difficult to be a Black artist, but it's rewarding. And what's rewarding about it is you really get to dive into who you are when you paint. If you're telling that story or you're just expressing yourself, you really get to take every weight that society has put on you. You get to put that to the side for a minute. You see the news and you see 4 Black men have been lynched within the same month. And then while you're painting about it, the pain is there, but when you're done, it's gone. For a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people handle things differently, but for artists being able to dive into that zone and get away from everything, or sometimes speaking on it to get it out of their system is therapy. It's important. It's necessary. A lot of us I need that. And telling the Black experience within my work is very empowering, because when any artist who's confident about their work makes work, they make it to be seen. They don't make it for themselves. They make it so it's in your face, you see it, and you might not feel it, or you might feel it. but the goal is for you to feel it. And it's real challenging sometimes, but it's real conflicting emotionally or mentally tackling these things, but it is therapy and it's really rewarding. Within my own art career, I have found like a new embracement of Black culture, which I've always had in my life, but finding new ways to incorporate that within what I do helps me grow personally as well. For the community, it's good. It helps. Black people have always been very expressive, very talented. And a lot of the time, because we're not taught that in school or we don't learn about these artists, a lot of the time we don't even know there is anything for us in that world. Because when we learn about African art, it's because you paid $1,000 for that college class. It's not because it's part of that art curriculum you chose to take in high school where you're learning about Van Gogh. You don't learn about those guys. And it took me until I didn't start learning about a lot of Black artists outside of the ones you always hear, like Basquiat, until I was in my 20s. So for me, part of being a Black artist was trying to break that narrative and change something about my state, but others' state as well. So break the box. It's difficult, but it can be done.
Amazing. Airing out the dirty laundry. Do you understand what that means? Like, Andrea's talking about how we silence women, particularly Black women too, how there's so much erasure around who they are, what they go through, as if they are not human or as if we don't see them. Invisibility. That was amazing. We'll talk later. And then we had Voice TV. They gave us a film that shows us the power of voice, the power of protest and how we protest and how that is raised. So shouts out to Voice TV. And then we've had my man Philip Cherry, who talked about his experiences as an artist and the things that are expected of an African-American artist and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to deliver. And when you just have to write your own pain and paint your own pain to get that out. So shouts out to Philip Cherry for that amazing work. We are not done. We got our last round of amazing artists. So what you're about to see, you're gonna see the UHAS and dancers in collaboration with J. Anna Carter. They're gonna capture what the UHAS and dancers do, exploring forms of physical protest, and I won't talk too much about it. And then you're gonna see my man Cut Right of Just His League, amazing hip hop artist about to get down. And then there's Lady V Poetry. Y'all, this woman and her words. Listen. If you just got here, welcome to, the last part of this show. You can go back and watch later, but what we're asking you to do is invite some friends, get comfortable, get in your feels. Yeah, get all in your feels because we want that. Let's go.
Seems like all over the world, we got people fighting for us, got people fighting with us. God before us, who could be against us? So salute. Let's keep fighting. Black Lives Matter. Listen, they lit the dirt up like a Roman candle. If you listen close, you could hear Philando. George Floyd was the straw that finally broke the camel. Now we watching young vandals tear it all to shambles. Yeah, it's apparent that we need hope. Wake is going down for like the world is on a ski slope. But even as we revolt, please remember these quotes. Vengeance is mine, say if the Lord, and then repost. The word says to be angry and sin not. Kinda hard to do when they getting our man shot by some overgrown bully that's playing pretend cop. We trying to send a message so they get us inbox. And while we drowning our emotions, the Hillsong pastors wouldn't help us out the ocean. And it's Drew Brees things show the issues with the Saints. Think we playing for the same team and realize that we ain't. And you know that you can't trust a smile on their faces when our heart radio turn our heart races. And these quiet celebrities who don't give a damn put protecting their brand over helping their fellow man. They don't wanna understand that people keep popping gums, laying at the free, but that freedom is not for some. And when it come to justice, we the forgotten ones. So tell Mr. Riker that we the forgotten sons. See, we've been targets in they sight without the laser on. Work the Wonder Woman, they be quick to throw the braces on with nothing they can base it on. That's why the people hate you strong. Hearts are colder than a freezer. I just pray they change in form. Same goes for all the looters, homie, they are wrong. Same justice that I want for George, I want for David Dawn. That's why I'm waiting on the sun just like the break of dawn. Cause he the only one to bring peace to this raging storm. Yeah. Cause he the only one that can bring peace into this raging storm. That's why we waiting on the sun, just like the break of dawn.
Like everybody else is upset, but I'm ready for the change like you are. Let's make it happen. Are you man enough? Are you woman enough to come into the table and say I'm hurt? I'm struggling right now. I hate you, but I'm willing
Powerful words.
And talk and let's work it out and make this thing better, yo. Thank you, sir.
I watched prayers become symphonies. Heard them serenade prime time as if they were philharmonic. Black lineage shared on city streets, the conductor cueing a melody revolving around red blood on black pavement. Death of humans with darker hue as tempo, skin color their only common meter. A melodic discord with no resolve. The stage is silent. Black mother solo eulogies in unison, a chord progression on repeat. Silent cries of why must I bury my child echoes as loud as a triangle in the concert hall through a measure of rest. Their questions, a call with no response. Prayers for dying babies never reach the director's back, so the world doesn't understand the magnitude of their loss. I've heard the community's desires for black blood to cause more than riots fall on deaf ears. Hashtags are no longer sharp because they become so natural, a part of our daily lives. Their names fall flat like accidental notes on the staff. The shooter, composer, says this is an isolated occurrence as if there's not another death. Correction, accidental note every measure. No need to change the key signature when you can't recognize an issue that needs to be addressed. No need to change the headlines when the next sonata will be the same. Why didn't God show me that prayers aren't sharp knives to protect the orchestra from bullets pierced? Prayers won't crescendo until force fields block of early death. The grand finale of the orchestra cannot reverse countless lives lost. There's no way to heal a broken heart after your child's demise has ripped it into a million parts. No one ever told me that I love you transpose means I die if you don't make it home tonight. You never told me that I love you transpose means I die if you don't make it home tonight. I'm still watching prayers become symphonies as they serenade prime time.
I told you it's about to be amazing. Listen, you just saw the Young Hassan dancers and Jayana Carter put together the physical protest movement and sound and the visual of it, y'all. It was visceral. It was so, oh my gosh. I hope that you got a lot from that. And then my man Cutright and his Justice League. They are a Charlotte-based CHH nerdcore collective called Justice League, and his music is faith-based for love of people and love of pop culture. An amazing guy and an amazing artist. And of course, Lady V just gave us this piece called Orchestra, and she is a part of the Charlotte community, of course, but a part of the Respect the Mic Slam team. She's an award-winning poet. She's also a DJ. She's also an artist, like she paint. She does a lot of things, but her words are the magic, y'all. I hope that you enjoyed all of this. This was fun. I'm glad y'all let me sit here and talk to y'all and present to you some of this work. This is just Act 1. But if you want to, stay tuned for more, July 18th, then July 25th. But in the meantime, you're like, listen, how do I give these people money? Oh, you can donate to the artist individually, or you can donate to boomcharlotte.org/donate/, right? boomcharlotte.org/donate/. That's another way that you can definitely donate. So again, thank you to our partners, Black Market Charlotte. Charlotte is creative. The Roll Up, and of course, boom. And thank you to our funders, the Knight Foundation, Re-Emprise Fund, Foundation of the Carolinas, United Way, the Arts and Science Council, and the North Carolina Arts Council. Listen, Act 2, July 18th, 4 p.m. Remember that. Say Act 2, July 18th, 4 p.m. Again, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you're taking something away. Make sure that you feel free to share this. Of course, please share it. Have a watch party. Do whatever. Because this is how we act now. This is how we rally back. This is how we bring back up the dead through art, through works, through wonder, through say yes, say no, say we will fight this power. We act now on this ground, on this sacred place where we say we will no longer be oppressed. This is how we act now, through color, through dance, through voice, through film, through lens. We see you. We see you. We're coming. New voices on the horizon. New movements on the horizon. New revolution on the horizon. We are not waiting. We are acting now. Peace, y'all. Hey, guess what? I almost forgot to tell y'all about Act 2, the lineup. Listen, we're going to have Alexa Smith, Asia Christ, Carrie J. King, Chanel Blanchett, Kurt Keys, Cynthia J. Allison, CC, the artist hippie, D'Angelo Dia and HNNI, Janelle Dunlap and R. Bowens, Mafuka Works, Sadie Woods, and my personal favorite, Soulganic. Y'all, Act 2 is going to be amazing. I know I did the whole, peace thing, but this time I'm for real. Come back for Act 2, July 18th, 4 p.m. That is the lineup. It will be amazing, and you're gonna love it. So again, get out there in the streets. Do what you do. Don't wait. Act now. Peace for reals this time.